Good morning, everyone. This is Kate Francis, your host from Knoxville. I'm so happy to be with all of you today, as I always am, wherever you are. But before we get started, I want to mention the last YouTube session, which was the interview with Tracy Jones. If you caught her, I hope you enjoyed that. She is really quite the person. But I do want you to know if you have questions, whether it be anything that she said or that you want to know, email and we will get to her and get the answer for you. No problem. And happy to do it. So, with that, we'll get on with today's topic, which is unconditional love. How do I approach a topic of this kind in 20 minutes? It's a huge subject. Well, I'm going to give it my best try anyhow. So we are just humans. Would we all agree about that? We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, our good days, our bad days. We think we got it, and then we find out we didn't get it at all. It's our thoughts and beliefs about unconditional love can be confusing, can be conflicting, or even some people think irrelevant. But in my opinion, and everyone's got one, I'm no exception, this topic doesn't get enough attention. Considering our human weaknesses and our strengths and our shortcomings, whether we are aware of them or not, we tend to strive for more fulfilling things in our life. Whether we admit that or not to ourselves, it's human nature. We tend to strive for more. So what are we after? What are we really after? As an individual, what do you seek in your life and in your relationships? Suppose you consider all the unique differences between human beings, such as our family of origins, our culture, our ethnicity, our values, our morals, our beliefs, our financial security or lack of. It's a lot to think about. It really is a lot to think about. And a lot of us just don't take the time to do the thinking. I want to even point out that I think it's interesting if we look at the differences and the conflictual differences even between science and psychology, physiology, philosophy. Here again, all these different things, even in faiths, different beliefs. But our diversity is so vast, so vast. Yet the more significant population of the United States has found a way to mainly and peacefully exist together, which is a testament to the power of unconditional love. Let's explore the definitions of unconditional love, and you'll see some of its differences. There's four main ones. One is agape love. Now that's a Greek word considered the highest form of love. It represents divine, unconditional loving another by choice. Loving another by choice, not obligation. The love of God towards humanity is expressed through agape love. 1 Corinthians 13. So that's the highest form of unconditional love. Can we as humans obtain it? I think we certainly should spend a lifetime working towards developing it, but we certainly can have the traits and the things that help us. We can develop those. The second one is storge love. That's another Greek word that describes familial love. Now, that meaning love between parents and children, siblings, husbands and wives and partners. Storge love naturally develops as bonds are created. It is protective, it's loyal, it's selfless, and it withstands many ups and downs. And then we go to filial love. Filial love describes genuine affection and brotherly love. It develops when friends are devoted and they honor each other. And it's a kind of love we exhibit towards friends and neighbors and others that, we see as almost like family. And the last but not least is Eros love. Eros love illustrates God's design God's design for intimacy, passion, and connection in marriage. This love is a word to express sexual love that is shared by the joining of two people. This description is best reflected in the Song of Solomon. Now, everyone wants to feel a sense of belonging. I do, you do, everyone does. We like to have that sense of feeling. And we want to be approved of by others. And we would love to be loved and accepted and respected and understood. That is human nature to want those things. The most angry person walking the earth on some level is angry because they don't have it and that they see it in others and it makes them angry because we want to have that. Unfortunately, some people feel the need to get that through bullying and using harmful words and actions or doing whatever it takes to get what they want, which is always at the cost of others, always. So can they really get what they want? Or do they have people afraid that are yesing them to death? You know, that's a real problem because a lot of that goes on. Those are the men and women, by the way, who just don't get it. They just don't get it. And we need to have empathy for them, not judgment. These folks operate out of fear and all that fear implies. They would never have the courage to face the deep insecurities and the need to wield power or disregard others who don't think as they think in order to feel good about themselves. Their capacity to love without expectations for personal gain is non-existent. They envy anyone, even those with far less than them, who demonstrate unconditional love for their family, friends, and the people in their lives. In other words, people trying to do what it takes to express unconditional love have learned a long time ago that old saying, how to make lemonade out of your lemons. They've learned that a long time ago because it develops over time. It develops. Now, I think some people just have it naturally. That doesn't mean they're not going to develop that along the way. So it's out there. Someone who is able to demonstrate unconditional love to the best of their ability, and I say that because there's some days you just don't have it in you, but it starts with yourself. It starts with your own ability to laugh at yourself. And that's what it's all about. It's learning not just to laugh, but to see through your eyes the good in people. To be able to smile at someone on the street that you don't even know. And even if they don't smile back, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's what's inside of you and what you allow to be inside of you. Is there a downside to being kind and loving and caring and forgiving and generous? Yeah, there is. Unconditional love, and I want you to really hear me on this point, is unhealthy if you don't have clear and firm boundaries. Establishing firm boundaries with individuals who may exploit your capacity for love is crucial. Your ability to show unconditional love should not be taken for granted or treated with disrespect. It's important to remember that those who are the most insecure, jealous, angry with the world, they are the ones most likely, consciously or unconsciously, to hurt other people. So let's stop just for a moment and let's look at what it takes to practice unconditional love. We're talking about it, but how do you do it, right? Well, I'm going to give you 8 ideas. 1, consider the other person's needs before your own. 2, empathize with them when they're down. 3, when they do well, celebrate them. Celebrate them. Give them that little pat on the back or express that you noticed it. 5, you have to be patient with their shortcomings. We all have them. We all have them. And we all need the patience. Do we lose it sometimes? Back to being human. Of course we do. But that doesn't mean we can't go back and say, gee, I'm sorry. That's part of unconditional love. 6, you want to support them through their difficult times. I'm sure all of you listeners out there, at one time or another, maybe not all of you, but most of you, have had somebody that was there for you in a difficult time, if only to sit with you. 7, and this is important that most people don't think about, give them space when they need it. There are times that people just need some space. For whatever the reason, you don't have to question it, you just honor it. And last 8, do something for them, not wanting anything in return or expecting anything in return. What a gift. This is what those people that don't get it, this is what they're unable to do. There has to be something in it for them, or they disregard you. Now, how difficult and demanding, I have to ask you, were any of those things, those 8 things I mentioned? They don't sound difficult to me at all. But that isn't the case for everyone. But self-improvement, and I'll say it again, self-improvement, it's always there waiting for you. Each and every one of us have that option for self-improvement. We must realize that self-improvement is a path to a more self-satisfying and exciting life. The gain may not always be tangible, such as great power or great status or having a lot of money, but often we overlook what we can spend a lifetime seeking. Back to our question, what are you looking for? Everybody will have a different approach to that, but you have to ask that question at some point in your life. At least I recommend it, because if you can sit with yourself quietly and long enough and answer that question honestly, objectively, you might learn something very, very important. Unconditional love can benefit you, even though you're not expecting anything in return. But I warn you again and again and again that it can be very unhealthy if it exists without boundaries. It can also be very challenging to distinguish and discern between someone showing unconditional love or that person needing so much love themselves and approval that they're not extending themselves in a way that's unconditional love. They're extending themselves at the cost of themselves. Does that make sense? There's 2 ways, and you have to distinguish that so you know. Certainly as a therapist, we have to know the difference in order to help that person see them. So if you are one of those latter people that needs that so bad that you just keep giving it out to everyone in hopes that they're going to get the message and give it back, you need to seek professional help. It's not because you're weak. It's not because of anything. You need to unravel something so that you can learn and recognize in your way that you're worth being loved, that you're worth it, or that you're worthy. It's freeing. It's freeing to finally know and accept yourself. And that goes back to many of our podcasts where self-love comes to play. Self-love isn't selfish love. It's quite unconditional, because you can't give what you don't possess. And if I don't love myself, how am I going to love you in a healthy way? So I don't ever want you to think, never think, that you're the only one who makes mistakes or made unhealthy choices, and that's holding you back because you don't think you're worthy enough for the good stuff in life to be accepted and be approved of, and you're covering up with all kinds of actions that aren't in your best interest. Realize we have all failed at times. We have all made mistakes. So don't be hard on yourself, because it's a work in progress, and you should be continuously vigilant about actively working on that every day. The more you develop these characteristics and the stronger they're developed, is what's going to bring you what you probably really are seeking. that's very fulfilling, more than anything tangible. I certainly know about my mistakes. And did I make unhealthy choices? You bet I did. And you know what? I'll probably make some more because I am human. But I hope and I pray that I don't make the same ones. And usually I don't, because once I see my mistake, I try to correct it or apologize for it or whatever it calls for. So it's just being human and not thinking of perfection necessarily, because we're never going to be perfect. Try not to overlook the power of your words and your actions and their consequences. That's the biggie, because they all have consequences. Keep in mind, what you sow is what you're going to reap. Keep that in mind, because that's for everyone. No one gets away from that fact in life. They may think they are, but not really. And there are other many ways to develop unconditional love. I'll tell you about mine. My development, and still developing, is my relationship with God, which has taken years to develop, and I hope it never stops growing. It has allowed me to learn and expand and experience inner peace, love for my fellow man, and strength to handle the more difficult and challenging times in my life. It's also helped me to forgive myself, and that's an important piece, because sometimes we walk away feeling all kinds of feelings. We're a bad person, maybe it's shame, whatever it is that negative feeling about ourselves stops us. We can free ourselves from all that. Forgiveness is wonderful. Now, let me be real here. This doesn't mean that I don't get out of sorts at times or frustrated. I have gotten frustrated at times with a friend or someone till I wanted to wring their neck. But let me tell you, I can't think how many of those same people, or even others, have wanted to wring my neck and gotten frustrated with me. You know, I can get caught up in all this little stuff. Drives people crazy. My administrator used to say, please, back off. And she taught me that. I never knew that about myself. So not everything's hunky-dory in life. It just really isn't. And I'm not looking through rose-colored glasses when I talk about this. Quite the contrary. With having a relationship with God, Jesus, you know, sometimes words come hard. How do you describe it? Because I think everybody who is involved in that relationship maybe experiences it differently. But for me, it grounded me. It grounds me. It made me more open and realistic and aware, you know, that there was someone far more powerful than I could ever hope it to be, and that could extend love unconditionally, and I could start to do that too, and I could begin to really free myself. I know now what I can control and what I can't control. Believing in the Holy Trinity, the existence of God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit as one, gives me a different perception of life, one that makes me feel safe and secure, and with the knowledge that I'm never alone and I'm loved. I hope everyone can experience these feelings, which is not to say my experience should be yours or you would elect for it to be yours. But I guess I am wishing you joy and peace and love like this, because it's the greatest thing that's happened in my life. And I have been far, as I said, a far cry from stand up and a pure individual who never made a mistake. So throughout history until present, there has been disarray, division, wars, lack of respect, and we could go on. And we've had it from the beginning of time right up till it's still there. Gotten a little worse, maybe? I don't know. It's gotten there. And even Christians, let me say, they did some great stuff early on in history. And then there's the Christians that get a bad rap when some other Christian is not, who calls himself a Christian, is not acting it. And that goes for any religion. But you know, man has been blind to what history has taught them, because as history's gone on, that need for that power and that greed and that I'm going to rule the world, that man has been blind to, because if they look back in history and see the consequences, it didn't work out so well in the end. Those empires fell. And so I think man still has the feeling that I can do better. Would it be helpful if everyone knew how to operate out of unconditional love? Would it create greater peace and more kindness? But one's need for power control never ceased to be a barrier between the takers and the givers. Is unconditional love the answer to minimizing much of the division and lack of respect? Absolutely. Yet is it realistic? Unfortunately, probably not. But whoever gets it and acts on it makes a positive difference in their small way. And it would be nice if more people wanted to make that difference. So consider the value of unconditional love, both giving and receiving it, and what that approach of life can bring to your life. Until our next podcast, remember, keep the faith, never give up, and know when to let go. God bless.